really like about this project and the documentary itself is that it shed light on the problem of hunger on college campuses that I think until the pandemic, many of us just didn't realize or understand. And I'm wondering if you can all talk a little bit about that, including Luis, because I know, we don't understand that people who are going to community college or universities, four-year universities, are often struggling not to just pay, their student loans, but to pay for the necessities that they need to carry out their studies. Luis, do you want to address this first?
Well, for years, and what the pandemic did and efforts like the Farmlink project did is they brought attention to that. There had been plenty of organizations working on that problem for many years, but we just didn't have a microphone big enough. I always kid with James and I tell him, I've been screaming on the corner for 2 decades, and you come in and give me a microphone. You guys came in and gave me a megaphone in which everyone was able to hear the message that I've been trying to share for so long. So the fact that they brought attention to that was incredible. But yeah, there are so many students that are trying to keep jobs, that are trying to pay for the necessities. So many students, even in big cities, highly populated areas, that have to contend with having to pay the high rent prices, that have to make a decision whether they pay for rent or their bills or eat that day. So, bringing attention to that is definitely amazing. And I'm very happy to say that we've been helping several organizations that address that problem. So
that's fantastic.
It's been beautiful.
Owen?
Yeah, and just building on that, there were some shocking things that didn't make it into the documentary. Like, I think at Cal State Long Beach, they have an entire parking garage for houseless college students to sleep in their cars in.
Yep.
And it's like 4 levels of cars of kids who are sleeping in there and can't afford to put food on the table. And it's like, I don't know, it doesn't matter which university you go to. Like Berkeley, the same thing. There's a street that's known as the street for, college students where it's safe to sleep in your car. So, this is a really deep issue, and we've had dozens of students work for Farmlink who have experienced food insecurity, and they see it as a way to bring back to their community and change that situation. So
it's phenomenal. What kind of progress are you seeing on that front since Farmlink started? Are you seeing change happen? People are recognizing college hunger. They're trying to do more about it, but do you see any real sort of sea change happening?
The pandemic brought along a lot of efforts to actually start food pantries within colleges and universities. And those food pantries that were previously in silos, kind of trying to procure food from a small funding efforts, are not basically a part of the larger food recovery landscape.
Right.
And they're able to work directly with organizations that are able to provide a constant supply of food for those students.
Yeah.
So that has definitely changed. Not only more pantries opening, but more pantries connecting with the large food recovery organizations to be able to provide consistent food access.
That's so
to those
important for them
communities.
to be more connected and interlinked, right?
Yes, definitely.
I think, this effort to keep people fed during a very acute crisis, you talk about this in the film. I'm wondering how you sort of look at, what's happening now. We're in 2024. How do you keep the momentum building when there is not as much attention? You're not on ABC every night. You're at Sundance, so that's pretty cool. But
thank you for that.
No. But
Thank you.
No, it's not me. But how do you keep the momentum going in a way that makes it effective?
Yeah, I'll start quickly. And sometimes we have to clarify after the film that we're not driving the trucks ourselves anymore. We're long past that. And we made this decision basically and to commit our careers to this for many reasons. I think one I'll mention is that everybody in this room knows, I think, more than anyone, that in order to really work towards food justice and have a future where hunger might not exist, that's a multi-stakeholder effort. It's not going to come from just one particular area. But one very important area is the charitable food system, and tens of millions of people rely on it. And we're looking at that system and realizing it can be better than it is right now. Yes. We can actually, with this solution, bring hundreds of millions of dollars worth of aid into this system and make food more accessible, make it more efficient in getting there, and make the system more unified. And I think as we do that over the next 3 to 5 years, as we continue to scale up, we're going to earn the opportunity to begin to look at the really, really important thing, which is how do we make it more dignified to get into people's hands?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And how can we use that support that we're providing to support the right organizations who focus on breaking down the stigma of having to wait in line for a bag of groceries?
Right, right. Also, I want to ask you, how do you make it healthier? I feel like food donation in the past has relied a lot on donations from big corporations, right? It's been a lot of packaged foods. It's been a lot of ultra-processed foods. What are you seeing in this work every day that's getting away from that to healthier options for the clients of food banks and food delivery systems?
We've been seeing, actually, when you look at food, even when traditionally the big food banks usually moved a lot of those processed
Right.
foods because those companies were some of the biggest funders for the charitable food space when we're talking about the large
Right.
food banks. There has been a movement in the independent food recovery space to actually move fruits and vegetables to make sure that we provide produce to people in need. That had been a movement that had gained a lot of steam. But with the pandemic, there's organizations like the Farmlink Project. We're focusing on providing mostly fruits and vegetables to people in need.
That's
Well,
great.
I would say that over 90% of all the food that we move is fruits and vegetables. And there's been definitely efforts to actually connect directly with farmers and with industries to be able to make sure that we don't only collect food from the supply chain when it's near the retail outlets, but from the farm. We had a large event that occurred literally this fall in which we were able to recover 360 loads of apples
Wow.
directly
It's
from
like
apple
60
farmers.
million apples,
Oh
basically,
my God.
that we're
Directly from
gonna be
farmers.
put in a pile and lit on fire,
That-
basically.
yeah, and right now we are hearing from the potato farmers throughout the United States and Canada that there's going to be tremendous surplus because the weather
Right.
led to a large crop, and there's going to be a significant amount of waste if we don't do anything, if we don't do something to recover it right away.
Sure. For these fresh foods, for fruits and vegetables, how do you handle sort of the infrastructure challenges of cooling and making sure that they can be distributed while they're still healthy for folks to eat?
What we do is we focus on being nimble, and whenever we send a food to an organization, they know that it's coming, they know it's produce, so we can communicate amongst all stakeholders in the area in order to make sure that that food gets to people in need that day. So when a farmer calls us, one of the promises that I make in every single that we make in every single produce conference in the United States is that whenever a farmer or a company calls us to donate food, we move that food and make sure that it's in the recipient's hand from 24 to 48 hours from the time they call us.
Fantastic.
As a matter of fact, I just got a call for 2 loads of strawberries right now, so just
Do you need to
letting
take
know.
care of that? You want to step out?
They're gonna be in recipients' hands Monday morning in Los Angeles.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. Luis brings up such a great point that I think, maybe I don't think I learned this in college, so I'm speaking for myself. I didn't learn how to be nimble, right? I stuck to my schedule. I took my tests. I got papers in on time. What you learned from this is the ability to pivot, be nimble. What are some other things that are especially sort of resonate with you now, like the skills that you learned?
Yeah, I mean, going back to what we kind of shared at the beginning, the first was even now, a big part of our culture, it's like one of our core values that we have listed is basically don't think like you know the answer. It was very helpful in the beginning because we actually didn't know anything, so we couldn't even pretend, but that has to remain true because I think there is an issue in the nonprofit space of continuing to do things because that's the way you've done it in the past.
Right.
And you've been rewarded in the past because you've done great work, but that doesn't necessarily affirm that that's the way it should continue.
Right.
And so we have to continue to hold that really true, even if we were 10, 20, 30 years old. And so, yeah,
40,
that's a core
50
aspect.
years old.
Yeah.
Thank
If
you.
the org is
Keep
10 or
saying
20.
stuff like that on panels.
Like if the org is here for 50 years, we've got to remain not stubborn in our mission, but flexible in the way we accomplish that.
Fantastic.
Also, it sounds cliche, but hope drives people forward in a way that pessimism never will. And I think cynicism, especially amongst young people, is at an all-time high. And there are many great storytellers in this room And I think the biggest takeaway was make people feel as hopeful as possible while understanding the problem at hand, and that's going to drive people to dedicate their lives towards these issues. So
Fantastic. I wonder what your advice is to other young folks who want to be part of something. It might not be food recovery or feeding folks, but it's another issue that they feel strongly about. How should they get involved? What should they do?
yeah, so we've screened this at dozens of high schools, elementary schools, middle schools across the country, and the kids have the best questions. They have the best ideas, and it's so inspiring how much passion there is there. And I think, we all had ideas for starting a company or solving a problem when we were younger, some big startup idea or something like that, and never took action, never actually took the first step forward. Not to throw my mom under the bus, but she thinks she had the idea for Groupon. That's like, she's always like, that was my idea and they stole it. And it's like, no, you didn't take the first step forward. You didn't, So for young people, I think, I hope this isn't taped, but.
It's not. You're fine. I'm not going to tell her.
I'm taping.
Yeah. For young people, it's, do what we did. Call as many people that you can get access to who are experts in this space, who have developed a similar idea, and be like, hey, I'm fucking 15 years old. I'm super passionate. I want to make this happen. Like, I think everyone here who has started something successful will agree you will respond to that email. And you can learn so much through that person and just see what friends will join along, learn as much as possible, be open-minded. And I don't know, it's not rocket science how to start a lot of these things. You just have to ask the right questions.
Aidan, did you want to add anything else? Are you good?
No, yeah, it's the same. And then maybe set it up so that if and when it fails, because it's definitely going to fail at stages, set it up so that if it fails, it doesn't fall 1,000 feet down and crash and burn. It's it'll land somewhere where you can actually pick up and start again.
So that's such a crucial way to look at this, because you're going to experiment. Things are not always going to go as planned, and you need to be able to have something to keep going with. And I think a lot of people just give up after that first sort of failure, right, Luis?
Yeah, and yes, definitely. But what I would add to that is, don't ever feel that support for the causes that you believe in is attached to money or to any physical exchange of goods or resources. Know that the most valuable thing that you could give to any effort that you believe in is your work. Volunteering is the key. Making sure that you put your work where your mouth is, not your money, your work where your mouth is. I started volunteering when I was 16 years old, and I remember going to my public radio station, believing that I couldn't give any money for their efforts, but I understood that I could pick up the phone and actually take calls for the people who were donating to that radio station, and that's how I started.
Amazing.
I've been a volunteer my whole life.
That's fantastic. So the Farmlink website offers a lot of ways to get involved, including peer-to-peer fundraising and fellowships. Can you talk a little bit about these different opportunities and how you see the film as the jumping off point for a lot of these efforts?
Yeah, definitely. So this is our 58th screening. We've taken it all over the country and the world. So that people can take action. So we have 2 fellowship programs. If there are any students in the audience or people with kids, where you immerse yourself in a community partners organization and develop a solution that's unique to them. And then you can also help run our operations. So those are rolling. Like, I'm pretty sure applications are open right now. You can also host a peer-to-peer fundraiser. I personally, or some of our friends have personally eaten habanero peppers and raised $10,000, or ran in produce costumes or something like that. And also a huge outcome of this is, do you work for a company that has a corporate matching program or a corporate grant? Like, people have come up to us afterwards and been like, hey, we have this corporate grant we can sign you up for, and that's led to literally millions of pounds of food getting on the tables of people who wouldn't have it otherwise.
Yeah, if you're thinking right now, this might be relevant to my company that I work for, it probably is. So please come up to us afterwards.
That's
Absolutely.
great. Thank you. Final question, Aidan, I'm just going to turn to you, but everyone can sort of jump in. Is food recovery a Band-Aid? What do you think about long-term solutions? Do you want Farmlink to be around in 20 years, or should something very different be in place?
Again, I mean, I'm going to have to pass this to Luis. But again, that goes back to my earlier point of there are so many different ways to solve hunger We're focused on this charitable food system, something that has worked and helped so many millions of people over the last several decades. We just know that it can be better, and we know how to make it more accessible and more unified. And that is why we believe in this solution so much. It's not because we just think it's nifty and we can help people in the now. It's because we think we're carving pathways to access a resource that otherwise had not been accessed. And we really believe in that.
Thank you, Luis.
Well, what I would say is in 2012, I was sitting at the University of Vermont at the Food Systems Summit, which at the time was one of the biggest agroecology conferences in the world. And the same question was posed. And I got up on stage and I told everyone, I believe in the beautiful ideas that you have. I believe in the beautiful solutions that you are developing, and I'm all for them. The issue with food banking and the food recovery space is that we gotta feed people today. We are trying to make sure that people eat today, tomorrow. We gotta make sure that the generations of kids that don't have access to food are able to go to school, are able to function, and are able to do the things that people that are well-nourished are able to do. So it might be a Band-Aid, but we gotta feed people today until your beautiful minds come out with the perfect solutions for the food systems
Here,
problem.
here. Woo! Let's give it up for Farmlink and all the amazing work that they've been able to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.